You're listening to a podcast by Last Minute Crack with your host, me, Christina Hamilton. Last Minute Crack is your one-stop shop for all things arts and culture in Dublin City. For more information, check out our website at lastminutecrack.com or visit us on Instagram at lastminutecrack. A special thank you to Thibaut Kemoret for his help with the sound and for the music on this intro. Another thank you goes out to Zoe Spillane for her help managing the page. And now for your episode. And we're good. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Last Minute Chats with me, your host, Christina. Today we have an amazing guest, as usual, but this one's extra special for me. It is Eimear O Reilly. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me.
You look so beautiful.
Why is it extra special?
Because I'm just a big fan of yours.
Oh my God,
and
thank you so much.
it's like so interesting for me because, not to be kind of weird about it, but I was just like, you're in my bedroom, like when I was getting ready, when I was listening to the podcast, and now you're here in real life. It's oh my God, I can't believe it.
You'll be sick of my voice by the end of this.
Not at all. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
So I don't know where we start with all the things I'm interested in you. Actually, I had this whole start for the podcast that I completely forgot because I've been so starstruck. But I wanted to start off with a bit of a Gaeilgeoir thought too, because
make a hint up. Peace in her V-Shug.
Peace in her
V-Shug. Yeah, just peace in her V-Shug.
Nearly five.
Piece of Bjog, yeah.
You are a fluent Irish speaker.
I am.
I don't think we've had a fluent Irish speaker on the podcast before.
No way.
And I was wondering, how does that manifest in your life these days? Because I'm always looking for the opportunities to do that. I used to speak quite good Irish when I was younger, but as I went to college, there definitely was opportunities, but not something that I felt comfortable, like the Irish society and stuff, but I was kind of outside of that.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how does that come up in your day to day? Do you feel like it's still very active in your life, or?
I think with since I've started tattooing, I've brought it into my job so much. So I tattoo in Irish all the time. So I'll do flash sheets with Irish words, and it keeps it alive for me because when I was younger, it was my granddad's first language. So I was speaking Irish before I even went to school. So I went to an Irish primary school and I went to an Irish secondary school. So I was always speaking it at home with my granddad, my granny. My mom doesn't speak fluent Irish, but she gets the gist of it. But then when he passed away, sadly, it kind of died in our whole family as well, because he would always just speak fluent Irish, especially to me and my sister and to some of the grandkids that could speak it as well. But I guess from bringing it into my job, I did a flash sheet with, he used to say Grá Mór all the time, and he used to call everyone his Grá Mór or me his Grá Mór. So I started putting it on flash sheets, putting it up on Instagram, and it's now become one of the most popular things that I tattoo. Day to day, I'll do at least a week, I'll do at least 5 Grá Mórs. And it's crazy to think that even if they don't speak the language, they have it on their body, and it's kind of keeping it alive in this generation, because I feel everyone comes into me and they say I don't even speak Irish, but I love the language. I wish I had a better Irish teacher, or I wish I paid attention in school, or I wish I, did something, went to the what is it called? Gaeltacht. I remember I really wanted to go to the Gaeltacht, and my mom was like, "You're literally fluent in Irish. Why do you want to go to the Gaeltacht?" I was like, "All my friends are going, mommy." But
that's where you get your first kiss, ma'am.
Yeah, I was like, but the funny thing is if I went to the Gaeltacht, oh my God, I would have rang my mom within the 3rd day, being like, "I want to go home." That is to think of the Gaeltacht now is that's my idea of hell.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
No.
I went when I was younger, and I had some really, really good experiences, but some very intense, sticks with me for the rest of my life experience.
No.
I was 12 when I went, and I remember meeting all these people from Dublin, and they were all they started bullying me because I didn't wear a bra at that time. They were like, "You're not wearing a bra. Why about your boobs?" And I was like, I didn't even understand I had the concept of boobs at that time, because I was literally 12, and I was just,
You're not from Dublin?
No, I'm from Mayo.
Oh,
I'm from the West.
Okay, I didn't know that. When did you move up?
I moved for college
up or down?
Across.
Is it it's across?
Right across.
Right.
In 2014, and I've been here 10 years now.
Oh my God,
it's been a long time. I love it up here, though.
Yeah. Do you go home often?
I try to, not often enough. My mom will say that. But I try to. I love having the duality of those two homes.
Yeah.
So my home is, I live on a farm. I have cattle, and I have a lovely dog and a lovely cat, and I love going home. And one of my favorite things is when you look up at nighttime and you can see the stars. Whereas in Dublin, because I live in the city, I can't really see the stars at nighttime, and that makes me kind of sad. So I love being up here. I love the activity of Dublin. I love the community, obviously, and like the community that I've worked on building for so long. But I also love going home and hearing nothing and just being silent for a little time. And it's actually really interesting that you said that about your grandfather, because for me, my grandfather was my introduction to the Irish language for sure. I remember he was this wonderful, wonderful man who was always taking a moment to embody Irish culture as a person. So he promoted, like, the first thing he ever taught us was on taking two, and we'd have to go take him.
That's so cute. Take him.
And that was our little catchphrase together. And he loved Irish dance. He loved Irish music, and we would come home with our squeaky tin whistles, probably doing our granddad's head in because we're like 5, 6 years old.
Oh my god!
But he was like, "That's so good. That's so good." I love. It makes my heart so happy to hear how you're taking his legacy and moving that forward in such a creative way. So actually, how did you get into tattooing? Have you always been like a creative person?
I've always been a creative person. I'm like the most dyslexic person you'll ever meet. Like I have dyscalculia and dyslexia. So like the academic, it's just not there. But like I have always been into like music. I think it's gas that we're in like a music shop. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could play guitar. Like I have a pink guitar at home that's sparkly that I got when I was like 8 because Hannah Montana had a sparkly pink guitar. So I'm looking at all the colors. I'm like, oh my God, I would have loved this when I was younger. But like I have always been creative. I was always drawing. Always drawing when I was younger. But then school, when I picked the subject art in school, it completely killed my love for like drawing because you were kind of like made to fit what the curriculum wanted you to do. When like my art teacher would always be like, that's too caricature-y, like that's too this, that's too that. But I'm like they'd be like, draw this orange, and I would draw it, but it wouldn't be like everyone else's. So I just was like, oh, you know what, fuck, I'm allowed to swear. I'm like,
absolutely.
Fuck this. So I was like, I don't want to do art anymore. So I went into music. The two loves of my life was like art, music, and then I did dancing when I was younger too. So when I went into college, I was like, no, I don't want to do anything with art. I want to pursue music. And like, again, you know, some people go into to study something that they love, like as a day-to-day thing, but then realize that they don't want to actually do that for the rest of their lives. And I find it very difficult because I couldn't read music and I was, you know, in a music college. So it was just, so I left that and then went into doing a degree in musical theatre. Now, I don't know where that came from. I always get, am I bright red?
No.
I always get really embarrassed. But like it was a degree in acting, singing and dancing.
Okay.
Sick. It was so intense. Like,
Triple
oh my
threat.
God. And the only reason I got in, there was like 10 people in my year. And it was, I actually won't say the name of the college, but it was somewhere in town. And it was like this big exclusive place, really fucking expensive. And I was like, I did the audition and they all kind of like looked at me and they were like, okay. And they were like, and where are you? And I said the name of the other college I was in. They were like, oh, you're there. And I was like, yeah. And obviously like with music colleges, I think there is a little bit of competitiveness.
Competition.
So yeah, competition or something. So I was like, yeah, I'm in there. And I genuinely think that's the only reason I got in. And I stuck out like a sore thumb. Like I'd come in on a Monday morning and everyone would be like, I'd be like, what did you guys do at the weekend? They'd be like, I went to this play and I went to this. And I was like, oh, okay. And they'd be like, what did you do? And I was like, I went out and got drunk.
Yeah.
And it was like, I had no, like, and that was amazing that they were so driven, but like, I wasn't driven. I was just, I enjoyed, they were like, what's your favorite musical? I was like, Grease. Like,
that's a really good fun
It's
one.
a really good musical, but apparently it's not like a proper, like, I didn't know anything.
Yeah, it's not like smart.
It's not like a smart. Sorry, you asked me how I got into tattooing, and I've gone on a
I'm enjoying this
massive
journey.
long spiel. So I remember coming home from that college, like crying my eyes out every day, being like, because also as well, the tutors in it weren't. It was the same fucking thing as school. Like they just were not like. there for me for someone who is dyslexic or someone who was, struggling with learning things. And like, I did my 4th year musical, and this is something that I'll never forget. So a music teacher in my school at the time was like, I'm going to give you the lead of the musical. And this was in 3rd year. And I was like, no, you're not. I was like, no, you're not. And he was like, yeah, I am. And I got the lead, but they tried to take it off me. The principal and stuff tried to take it off me because I couldn't learn my lines as quick as everyone else. And then for some reason, somehow, the day of the musical, I smashed it, had never smashed it. And I smashed the both times. And it was the first musical that they didn't get recorded because they thought it was going to be a train wreck. Oh, and it was like, again, that feeling of like, there's no support, there's nothing. And like, there's loads of actors and actresses that are, dyslexic, and they do it, but it takes a little bit more time. Absolutely. And a little bit more patience. But any like area that I've been in when it comes to like college or school, like I've never gotten that support. And I'll never forget like one of the teachers that was involved in the musical ended up being my English teacher at the end of school. And when my mom came in for the parent teacher meeting, she just sobbed to my mom, being like, I'm so sorry that I put her through that stress because she is so dyslexic. Like I had no idea. And she smashed it, and I did it, but it just took a little bit more time. But this college was, I don't know if you have any idea of how like the ballet industry is treated, or like how like the dance industry can be just very scary and very they would comment on your weight, they would, and I'll never forget one of the tutors said to me, and this is maybe probably one of the week that I was like, I'm leaving this place, it's too toxic. The tutor was like, your body goes like this, by the end of it we'll have it like that. And it was in front of the whole class she said this, and I was like, that's me gone. I was like, that is me gone. And I couldn't believe that. Like, I saw this kind of stuff on TV where it's like, oh, the dancing industry, it's, it's musical theater industry, it's tough, fake it till you make it, all this kind of shit. But I was like, I am not going to let these people bully me anymore. I had enough of that in school with teachers and not understanding my thing. Anyway, sorry, you asked me how I got to tattooing.
I'm loving the journey. So let's take me wherever you want to go. Okay. But yes, I did.
Okay. You asked me how I got into tattooing, but I did all of this and I was like, I actually have no idea what I want to do. Okay. I have no idea what I want to do. So I fell into being a makeup artist. I worked on the Debenhams shop floor of the cosmetics, and one of the cosmetic counters were like, let's work for us. So I worked for 2 different makeup brands for like 2 years. And then I got a hand poke from this girl, Sticks Not Stones. I don't know if you know her.
I don't think so.
Her name's Charlotte, and she does stick and pokes. She's actually in London at the moment. But I got one from her. I found her on Instagram, literally went to her auntie's house, did it on her couch, and completely fell in love with it. And I had tattoos. Like I wasn't never like, watching, Miami Ink being like, I want to be a tattoo artist. But I just completely fell in love with the technique, and I was so amazed by it that I was like, I can do this. And I'm one to pick up something and say I can do this. Like I ordered a keyboard to my house when I was drunk during COVID, and I can't play the piano, I can't play anything, but I was like, I can do this. Like I'm one of those people that like I'll put myself in a position where like I think I can do it, and then if I can't do it in the first go, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, fair.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm the exact same.
I'm just like, I'm gone. I don't want to do this anymore. So then my mom bought me a hand poke set for Christmas. She thought it was like a fake. I don't know what she thought it was, but I whipped out the needles and she was like, oh my God. And my dad was like, what have you done? And I was like, great. Sitting there like, yes.
Do you want one, Mom?
Yeah. She was like, oh my God, I didn't know they were real needles. I was like, what did you think? She was like, I don't know. But anyway, thanks to her, like I probably would never have taken the step to buy the kit. And just from then on, like I was my own guinea pig. Like all of these ones I've done myself.
Beautiful.
There's like maybe like 1 or 2 that I didn't do on this arm. But I was my own guinea pig, and it was the only thing that shut me up and kept me in my room and to study. So I'm self-taught. Like I was consistently watching videos online on YouTube, and I was just like studying tattooing as a whole because there's so much, the hygiene and everything. And I guess I made an Instagram page, and at the time there was only like maybe 1 or 2 hand poke artists in Dublin. So when I made the Instagram page, it just kind of grew and grew because Charlotte was tattooing here and then she moved. So she said, anyone that I have, I'm going to bring them onto you, because she came over to my house, she let me tattoo her, like, and I was good to go. Like I was good to go, but it's just so crazy how Instagram, like how quickly it grew because it was quite niche in Dublin. So that's the very long way of saying that's how I got into tattooing.
No, I love it. Oh, there's so much you've brought up there that I love. And so you don't know this about me, but I did drama and English in college. And I can relate so much to that feeling of just not belonging in that space, because and I do not regret what I did, and I think it's made me, like, the stuff that I learned definitely made me a better person, and I think the lectures were great, but the people who were there, like, really made me feel like I didn't belong. And it was the same thing where they were going out to all these plays and stuff, and they were like, oh, I went to the Gate. I've never been to the Gate because it's never been in my price range.
What's the Gate?
It's a quite a fancy theater at the bottom of O'Connell Street.
I haven't a clue.
And I think they're getting way more accessible now in the last, like, couple of years, but at the time it was like €50 ticket or something like that.
Stop.
And there was X amount of student ones you can get, but I was never quick enough. So they were going to this, and they were like, oh, I'd go to this. And I'm like, where are you getting the money for that, first of all? Because I was working off a real small budget, and, like, I'm the first kid to go to college, and, like, how do you... I remember, it really does. I know they didn't mean to do it, but I remember we had, like, these class, like, awards, and everybody would get awarded, like, funniest person and cutest blah blah blah, and, like, best line, best improv, and I won most proud of my hometown. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, because I think it was because in class I would always say, well, you know, in my community, we would, like, they would show me pictures of whatever, and I'm like, you know, my community back home, like, this isn't something that we would really recognize, or I would draw from my experience, right, of being from Westport. But I think that really was something that annoyed people, that I would always talk about that, and I just felt like, what a dig, like, just what a dig. And then
they just pull that out their arse, like,
and like about, like, the bodies and the shapes, like, in theater. In drama, it wasn't really a lot about that because of, like, the it was mostly theory based. But I remember there was, like, a theater society, and I really wanted to act, like, I really did. And I remember just being turned away like a million times. I tried out for so many things and it didn't work out. And all the other people in my class were getting casted as stuff, and I was like, it's just really formative, especially when you're so young. I'm like, is it the way I look? Is it the way I speak? Is it the way I am? Like, what's wrong with me? And then on top of that, for you, it's like these people who are just not capable of, like, taking a step for a moment and going, how can I adjust to make this work? And that makes me so sad, because could you imagine, like, all the things you're phenomenal at, and all it takes is somebody's patience and adjustment to just make sure that you shine. And I think, especially in academic situations, I'm getting to a point.
No, I'm enjoying this. You're gonna make me cry.
No, I'm feeling like a little emotional.
I'm like, I'm on my period at the moment, so, like, I'm a bit, like, I have PMDD, so yesterday I was like, woo, so I'm a bit lower today.
I'm sorry. I'll keep it high. I have my bar, so I have none.
No,
so
I'm
it's
really
great.
enjoying this, though, because I'm in need of a good deep chat.
Okay, well,
so, like, you know me,
one.
I'll probably end up fucking bawling. But anyway, carry on.
We got this. If we cut, you know what happened.
Yeah.
But in terms of academic institutions, they're just so stifling creatively. Like, when I did the English part of my degree, I thought, you know, amazing, I'm going to read all these books and be around these smart people and, like, learn and stuff. And it was like, no, you have to tear through everything and read through everything and, like, and dissect it in so many ways. And you don't get it the right way, then that's wrong. And the language, like, there's a word, the language that they use in these things are so just... I want to, when I write, when I do anything, I want it to be accessible. I want people from my hometown to understand what the hell I'm saying. And when you're using words like, oh, I can't remember the big word. It's a word for education. I'm like, why can't you just use the word education?
Oh.
Why'd you have to use this word? It begins with H. I can't remember it. But it's like, and people where I was around were so proud that they knew the in language. And I'm like, what?
I know, it's such a thing these days as well. Like, so many people do that. So many people will use these massive words, and I'm like they'd be like, oh, I'm going to the, like,
I know, yeah, I get the vibe. Yeah,
and you're like, could you not just say shop?
Yeah.
Like, why did you need to use that word
It's
in
so
French?
annoying. And so, yeah, I don't know if you read a lot when you were younger. Do you know
No.
who Jacqueline Wilson is?
Jacqueline Wilson, yeah, of course.
I'm not
that bad.
I met her once at in the RDS. She was doing not a meet and greet, but like a show, and I got to ask a question because the security guard was so sound. And I remember asking her, like, look, I pursued a degree to learn English and learn about writing and be someone like you, and I'm not getting there. Is there something? What else do I need to do? And she basically turned around and she was like, really, these academic institutions aren't there for this. You need to learn somewhere else, because the amount of times I've heard people say, I love this, I'm going to pursue this academically, and then have them crushed is so annoying. And my point is to say, that's where I think community comes in, where I think is Luke Clerkin, who runs the Dublin Songwriting Circle. And so it's like just a community-based thing where you get together and you like try things out. And like that's how things can flourish. I don't think academia, it's great and you learn a lot of stuff, but if you're not in the mold and if you can't get that vibe, you're not wanted, I think, sometimes. And that sucks really bad. Whereas I think if you have a community, your hobbies have a better chance of thriving. And that's what I feel like with you, where you had, sorry, what was your friend's name who moved to London?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Charlotte brought you into her community. And in that way you could thrive because you were being loved through something rather than managed through something.
Exactly. And also I think as well, there's a massive competitiveness in Dublin for everything. And I worked in the makeup industry, so oh my God, that's just a different ball game. So between the bitchiness and the competitiveness, like tattooing, that game can be very bitchy, or not bitchy, but definitely competitive.
The shady.
A little bit, like, but the fact that she took me under her wing and was like, no, I want to help you. Like, you need to thrive. Like, I'm going to give you all my clients because I'm moving to Canada at the time. So, like, the fact that she brought me into her world and was like, yeah, take my leg, let's tattoo, let's go through everything step by step as if I was a client. And I couldn't be more grateful for her, because still now, like, she is like huge on Instagram and she's really like built her career, like, and I've watched her through every phase. And I'm like, you know, the fact that she took her time to help me to get to where I am now, I'm nowhere near in her position, but there's not a lot of that in Dublin. No. Definitely not. Like, there's not a lot of things where people are like, oh, I'm going to help you. It's more competitive. And I think especially in the creative side of Dublin, it is very competitive. Like, and it can make you feel very insecure.
Yeah.
You know, if you are not doing what everyone else is doing, if you don't have the followers that everyone else has, if you're not reeling it up and making a reel every day and being, you know, that fear of being forgotten. And I think with my tattooing as well, like, since I've started podcasting, you know, there are two things that I absolutely have so much like love and passion for. Like, tattooing will always be my number one, no matter what happens. No matter if my podcast became the biggest podcast in the world and I toured the whole world, I still would be like, I'm still tattooing. You know, I'd go to my day-to-day job and I would do it because I love doing it and it fulfills me in that way. But with like Instagram and how kind of things have changed with like promoting wise, it's so difficult to keep on top of all these trends and all these things, like making reels. And like, I always talk about making reels because I'm so intimidated by it, but I want to do it, but I'm terrified of it. So I will be so judgmental on it because I'm like, oh, fucking reels. But I would love to do it. Tried to make one the other day, didn't work. So I was like, this is not for me. But it's like with tattooing and being creative and everything, like everyone's these days are so incredibly creative when it comes to online, and they're throwing out things and throwing out ways to promote their businesses. So like the last, like I'd say year has been a little bit tough for me because I haven't been as active with like promoting my tattoo business and stuff because I've been podcasting. And then obviously now I found the balance and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast this day. And like, you know, because I'm in control of everything basically, because it's my own thing. So I'm in control of it now. So I can, you know, put a little bit more structure to my life, but it is so scary being a creative in Dublin.
Yeah, and I completely hear you. It's so competitive, as you said, like trying to fight each other for resource, when I do feel like there is space for everyone. And I feel like I don't think people realize that if one of us has success, we all have success, you know? But something I was interested, where my brain is just full of like,
Tell me.
such a good time. I'm having such a good time.
Oh
right
my
now.
God, love. Spill it all.
Oh, okay. No, we're not. We're keep rolling. So you were talking about your podcasting, and I want to talk about that. So Outside In with Eimear O Reilly, I was listening to it, and if I didn't love you already so much now, I was just like a little weirdo in my room getting my makeup done this morning, and I was like, it's not only such a fun concept. I want to really commend you for just being such a raw, open, honest person. It is so refreshing to have that in media, right? And it's so refreshing to feel like this is fun for you. I want you to, so that's my only, like, my thoughts.
You'll make me cry.
How did it come about? Like, how are you feeling about it? How's it going?
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit more shy talking about it. And I love that we're talking about it. Don't shy away.
Okay.
I am more shy because I have nothing to hide behind. It's genuinely just me. So it's like whenever people are like, I listened to your podcast, I'm like, did you really? Oh God, what do you think? I think I definitely, it's completely raw. It's a little bit all over the place, and there's no structure involved, and it's literally me. And I have spoken to so many of my friends, and like two of my best friends, Kim and Ella, they were like, they listened to it when they were on holidays, and they were like, it's like literally listening to a voice note, and they're like halfway across the world, and they were like, it's literally Eimear. Yeah. It's you. It's completely you. And it's not that like I wasn't myself before, but like it is harder maybe sometimes if it's in a like a duo or a dynamic. Like some people can kind of mold into each other, and then like maybe if you're with one person, your sense of humor is different. If you're with another person, your sense of humor is different. So I think that this is completely me, and I am an open book. Like you don't have to listen to my podcast. Like if you got a tattoo from me, you'd find out my whole life story and what, like I tell a stranger on the street what's going on in my head. But I think the things that I speak about, like especially with OCD and PMDD, it's something that, you know, I only got diagnosed with OCD when I was 19, and then PMDD in November. So the PMDD probably hit harder than anything because I actually didn't know this. My first episode, I was going, I think PMDD affects my OCD, like completely oblivious, but it's actually like a thing where like if you have OCD, PMS/PMDD will intensify it completely.
Wow, so completely intertwined, yeah.
And I literally said yesterday, God, I wonder, because I'm not going to lie, yesterday I had probably one of the worst days I've ever had, and just mentally with PMDD, and it's like, I said, I wonder what it feels like without having OCD. Like, I wonder what PMDD is like without having OCD, because with having the two of them together, it's like a cocktail for a nightmare. It's like, oh my God, everything intensifies. Like the paranoia. I literally was like, am I like having a mental breakdown right now? And it's like talking about these things out loud and talking about them so honestly, you know, I thought it was only me who felt this way. I didn't know that PMDD was a thing. I didn't know that it intensified my OCD. Like I just thought before I got this diagnosis that this was my character. I am mentally unstable and I'm not able to cope with day-to-day life. But it happened maybe like once a month for 2 weeks. And this is the thing. It's the 2-week thing. Like you have a bad day and you're like, okay, I had a bad day. Having a bad 2 weeks is like... There's no ending. Like it doesn't end. So there's stages, and it's so funny. Like my boyfriend was like, I'm gonna start a podcast called Boyfriends of PMDD because he's like, there's stages. I was like, the smoke comes beneath the bed. She turns green. Like she literally, there's stages of when she changes. But it is so honestly debilitating. It's so debilitating. It's like you are literally having an outer body experience. And like with OCD, obviously you have your intrusive thoughts, and your intrusive thoughts are completely made up in your head. Like there's no facts towards it. But when I'm struggling with PMDD, I struggle to find like yesterday, I could not differentiate between reality and my intrusive thoughts. So everything that I was like intrusive thoughting about, I thought was real. And my body goes through the whole motions of feeling what that thought is. And it's incredibly debilitating. And I think speaking out about PMDD on my old podcast was the best thing I've ever done, because I didn't know that anyone else felt that way. And then once the diagnosis came, I was like, okay, yeah, I thought it would make me feel better, but it doesn't, because you're like, I have to deal with this for the rest of my life. Now, don't get me wrong, every week, every month is different. Last month was it was okay. Nothing like this month. Like this month, like yesterday, I was like, I don't know what the hell. Like I was terrified to come today, because I was like, if I am like this,
oh no, love.
Coco Bongos. Like you'd be like, who is this Lula sitting on the chair? But I feel much better today. And like there always is that one day where you have probably a mental breakdown and then you're back to normal. But God love like the people around me, but like they're so supportive, so supportive. And it's fun to be able to be like, I feel kooky, I feel crazy, because you know, you have to make a joke out of it. If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Exactly.
You know?
And something I love about you is like, you are absolutely an open book, but not even. First of all, it's so important to talk about these things, because it's through speaking up. Like you don't know, like what you experience is your normal. And so you don't know if that's not normal until somebody talks to you. And I remember like a silly experience that's nothing like yours, but going, oh, you don't do that? And then he was like, no, like that's not normal at all. And I was like, what? Like you don't feel sick every morning? Like what's going on? Like I thought that was just a regular waking up thing. So doing that is just so empowering for so many people, not just yourself, but also I think just as a person, like even just listening to the small amount of the podcast that I've gotten time for, you've just awakened me to so many. The chasing the dragon thing was something that just like blew my fucking mind.
Oh my God.
Where I was like, yeah, and then the ideas of like having to chase prettiness or contentment within yourself. It's like, oh, I'll feel good about myself when I do this or do this, and not being able to sit and be like, this is fine. Those two concepts were like just eye-opening really for me. It's like as a person, I was like, damn. Damn, I do that.
Yeah, it's like I'm literally peeling like a reptile today as well. Like I got a really bad burn. I'm sure you heard about how I got
no spoilies.
I got a really bad sunburn. And that was like that moment where I was like, oh my God. Now, actually, the chasing the dragon thing, it comes from the actual meaning. If you looked it up, it actually is to do with like drugs. But people use it like as a day-to-day thing, which I think is even funnier. But like, it's that thing where I was like, oh my God, I'm actually chasing the dragon right now. I'm chasing the dragon with like how I look every day. I'm like, okay, once I, dye my hair, I'll be fine. Or once I do my eyebrows, I'll be fine. And then it's like, no, it's the temporary satisfaction or relief that you feel from these small things. But it's in here. That is, and I openly said, like, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm not going to sit here on a podcast and be like, like I did my whole healing and therapy, but like yesterday I was like, I'm going to book back into therapy. Like, it's one of those things where I'll always be in therapy, and I'm not completely healed. And I didn't want to portray on the podcast that like I am completely healed and you need to listen to me because this is how, because you see those fucking videos online, these reels, and it's like, 10 things you can do to avoid anxiety. It's like,
here's all the supplements I take.
Oh my, it's
rhodiola.
Like, man, I literally used to take a medication for anxiety, and that didn't avoid my anxiety. Like that didn't make anything better. So it's like people are constantly telling you what you need to do to feel better. But like, I think you figured that out yourself. Yeah. You definitely figured that out yourself. And I'm still kind of getting there. And like, it's just like really small steps. Like my boyfriend is so good. His name is Ryan. I hate saying that. Ryan is so good to, he's tough love. He will say, hearing what you say to yourself out loud is really awful, and he could get annoyed. And then he goes, there was one thing that really helped me was he said, what would you do if you heard someone say that about me? And I was like, I'd hate it. I'd be so angry. And he was like, yeah, well, that's how I feel. And I was like, oh wow. God. And then I was like, okay, now it's not that I don't think these things anymore, but maybe I don't project them on people anymore because it will upset them. Yeah. It's upsetting when you hear your friends talk awful about themselves. Yeah. Or like, even if my mom says something about you, you feel sad.
Yeah. You want to pick them up and
you're like, how could you think that?
Look what I see.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I need to stop projecting that on people. But like, I'm learning day by day, you know, I slip up all the time, you know. And for example, yesterday I was like, I am crazy. And crazy is not a nice word, but I use it as like, it's literally in my email address. Like my email address is like something crazy. But yeah, it's just like one of those things where like, I'm not going to sit on a podcast and pretend I know everything. I'm not going to sit there and pretend that I'm, you know, so intelligent and I know all these big words. Like I haven't a fucking clue. Like I don't know about anything, but the only way that I can do this podcast is talking about my own experience. And I feel like I have so much experience with mental health and everything else that comes with mental health, and then obviously PMDD and OCD. So it's like, you know, I'm talking about my own experiences. So I think that's why it comes across so raw, because it literally is. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. We have to get to the end of this podcast, and I hate that because I'm having such a good time. But just to kind of finish with what you're saying, I just want to say, like, in a world of social media where people are projecting perfection, I'm so glad and grateful for you. And I'm so happy that there is a person out there being authentic, happy to show all the rough edges of themselves. And yeah, I couldn't recommend this podcast anymore. So before we end up crying,
I have tears in my eyes.
Lose it, would you like to promote anything before we wrap up?
Like, what do you mean?
Would you like, so your podcast is Outside In with Eimear.
Outside In by Eimear O Reilly, or is it Outside In with Eimear O Reilly? Anyway, you'll find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Sweet.
And then I guess like if you ever wanted to get a tattoo from me, it's at squidink _blackrock.
Sweet.
Squidink _blackrock, yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I guess the only thing that I have to say is just please be nice to people, be kind. Like that's, you know, we're all in this shitty world. So just, you know, we're all feeling the same. So I guess it's like, and also comparison is the thief of joy.
Absolutely.
So
I saw this, I know we'll wrap up. I saw, of all places, RuPaul said something on The View, which like hit me in like my feelings. And he said, to be depressed in this world is a completely right feeling to have, but your job is to find the joy in that. And I thought that was an interesting perspective.
God, I love that.
So like, be kind, find the joy, and stop comparing yourself.
Stop comparing yourself to others, please. I'm saying this to me.
Well, I love you, listener, and I love you, watcher, and I love you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Music Maker for hosting us. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.